So I want you to think back to a time when you bought a computer, when you purchased a car, when you bought your last item. Let's say it was even as simple as a model airplane, or even simpler, a toaster oven. How thick was the user manual for that toaster? A page, 5 pages, 10? My user manual for my toaster oven was 21 pages. It told me how to plug it in. It told me how not to electrocute myself. It told me that children could choke on bits and pieces of plastic from the toaster. It told me how to prevent a fire. And then on top of that, it was designed to be almost so clear and easy that you didn't even need to open the manual to toast some toast successfully. Now, I want you to compare this experience for a moment with the last time you met someone important for the first time. And the question is, did you know how to turn them on, create value, not choke on weird bits inside of them, not trigger a meltdown or a fire, some kind of catastrophe emotionally, physically, mentally? Did you know how to heat them up and bring the best out of that person? Do you know when to engage with them? What their favorite format is? What their goals are? Did you know how to activate even 5% of the potential of that human being? Did you know? Now, the question that I have is, of course, if you just met someone important for the first time and had no history or context with them, you probably knew nothing at all. You had to engage with them for the first time without knowing how to engage with them. You had to take a risk that maybe that time of day was the day they like to do their power nap, and they like to take the lead in the conversation, but you made a bet that being assertive and saying, let's talk right now, and not giving them space to talk about that would be more successful than just saying, hey, and leaving it to them, in which case maybe they had no idea you wanted to talk with them at all. We engage with people without manuals. People who are 1,000 times more complicated than a toaster. Just a few examples. A toaster toasts toast. It says it right in the label. Toast, toaster. We all know what toast is. A toaster has just 2 or 3 buttons. It often says it in words and in symbols. We have a history with toasting bread. And yet, 21 pages of clear instructions just to make sure that our toast is toasted just so. A human being presses those buttons of the toasters, knows how to drive, types things, gardens, walks, does this. But a human being also thinks. A human being has beliefs religious beliefs, sometimes at odds with their scientific beliefs. A human being has values, but not just values. It's got a complex hierarchy of values, so that you and me, we both value fun. But you over here value fun so much that when it comes into contrast or conflict with honesty, you let honesty slip by the side and pursue more fun. That's how much you value fun. But I over here also value fun, but when it comes to that moment where I have to decide between something that's not fun but honest, or something that's fun but not fully honest, I'm going to pick the honesty side. So there's not just the shared values. We both value fun, we both value honesty, but in a slightly different hierarchy when we have to choose. Maybe there are even third variables in this. There is so much complexity in a human being. Now, I'd submit that there are two intelligent responses to this, or two possible ways of looking at it. One is human beings are so much more complicated than a toaster that a manual, it just could not be written. It's like, where would you begin? Feed me at 3 p.m. and this and that. It's like, where would you begin? Human beings are so complicated. We couldn't even begin to write a manual. So we just won't write any manual at all. Another approach is that human beings are so simple. We know, you know. Of course, you know. We're all the same. We just eat things, we sleep, we do what we like to do, we think things, you know. We don't need a user's manual because you know. And both of these leave us where we are today. We know so little about the important people in our lives as we are guessing and projecting and lucking out in unleashing some of our potential for moments, hours, days. We have significant people with the knowledge, resources, skill, and care that we need for our well-being passing us by unknown, unnoticed, unconscious, in the thousands of strangers that pass by, some that are desperate for our attention, some who we might be desperate to connect with for some which are perfectly matched and yet unknown. And when we do recognize, maybe because they're a celebrity, maybe because we've read one of their books, when we do recognize this is an important person to me, this person could change my life, we don't have that manual. Here's how I turn you on. Here's how I plug you in. Here's how I prevent a fire. Here is the way you like to make toast. On one level, this is profoundly scientific and basic. The airline industry has one of the highest rates of safety per person of any transportation industry in the world. And yet it is the riskiest form of transportation. What's more, almost all risks and hazards happen at the point of takeoff and landing. Now, what if airline pilots were in our predicament when getting into a new plane and taking off? We've got the same situation. You've just met someone, you're wanting to take off together, you're wanting to connect and get liftoff, just like that pilot. What if that pilot had no checklist? What if it had no training in that particular plane's model, and planes are, again, way simpler than people, what would be the odds of success? A pilot walks out on the runway, steps into a brand new plane they've never flown before, and without formal training or checklist, tried to take off that plane. Would it be 50%? Would it be 10% success? Would it be 60%? I don't know what the exact percentage would be. I just know that if pilots were trained that way, first of all, most of them would be dead, because in a 30% success rate with something as fatal as a plane, you'd rarely get pilots that flew more than 3 or 4 times. Second, none of us would fly on those planes. And this is the problem. A lot of people are very scared of taking off in a strong and substantive way. The way an airplane needs to take off to get lift with intensity, presence, skill, a clear checklist, and speed. A lot of us are afraid of going onto that runway with someone because we have not been trained, and there is no manual and there is no checklist. So here's what I'm suggesting. Create a user's manual. Now, this can be a couple of pages. Your toaster could have 20 pages, you could have 3. I don't recommend that, but it's better than nothing. Now, when I started learning and confronting this thing, how many of my relationships were crashing at liftoff due to the most innocent and well-intentioned misunderstanding on both sides, I thought, this is absurd. Why should toasters be more important than human beings? So I wrote down a list of the things that I thought, if someone knew these things about me, they would have a chance to succeed. I think this is particularly important in romantic relationships. In business relationships, there's a little bit more uniformity in expectation and culture. But in social and romantic relationships, where there's a wide degree of diversity, I live in San Francisco, and there is an incredible eclectic mix. And depending on where a person is at, if they've just taken a radical honesty workshop, if they're into BDSM or kink or open relationships, if they're someone who's focusing on being in the now, or whatever it is, there's so many different strains where these extremes can just miss each other, even though the individuals in those paradigms could be incredibly healthy and contribute value. So a user's manual is a chance to say, here's the paradigm that I'm working with right now. I'm in a paradigm of let's have fun, and if the first date isn't an 8, 9, 10 on a 1 to 10 scale of fun, it's just not for us. It's not the fastest way to have fun, and that's my paradigm. So if that's not good for you, don't come on a date. If it's great, let's focus on having fun, or let's compromise. Another paradigm might be, I'm a house builder. I like to pick the right person with the right fundamentals that can build a long-term relationship. I'm a house builder. I want to buy the land. I want to develop a design. I want to do grunt work for 3 to 4 months to prepare the land. And I want to build an enduring house on that land. And all these hippies and people that are just coming and going, I don't have time for that. This is serious. And if you just leave in the morning, it's just wasted my time. So how do we communicate these kinds of things? And I've created 4 user's manuals, and I'll share a couple of the things that you may want to include in yours. 1, dietary preferences. 2, daily routines when you're open to connect. Here's my openings. And it can be whatever you describe. It could be just call me whenever there's a 50% chance I'm available. Or it could be Thursdays from 6 to 10 p.m. and Sunday afternoon. 3, note your trigger points. These are the things that piss me off, that make me feel like I'm being treated inhumanly, that remind me of painful events, that bore me to tears. These are the things that weaken the value for me. These are the things that create amazing experiences together. If we can add in this, like just adding the element of food will up it 30%. If we can do a potluck or something. I like groups of 3 to 7 people. That's my ideal group size. Volumes. I love music and stuff, but not higher than this volume. Share who you are. Share your doorways to connection. Share what's valuable to you. Share the taboos. Don't ever lie to me or that's it. Say it plainly so someone knows how to succeed with you. I love this idea. One of my dreams is that every human being, including you, will come with a user's manual. If you create one, please let me know. I'd love to read it, and I'd love to share you one of mine.